So I think I remember 3 or 4 weeks after I got into Five Nights at Freddy's, I also found out about Scott's website, scottgames.com, if you guys didn't know what it was. So I randomly got got news that there was a teaser picture of Five Nights at Freddy's 2, and I took a look at it, and it was Withered Bonnie and the toy Bonnie on the right side. And that really intrigued me because it looked like it was going to take place after the events of Five Nights at Freddy's 1. And eventually more teaser pictures came in. The second one was Foxy with the undamaged Mangle in the second teaser picture, both behind Pirate's Cove. And the third teaser picture that came along was this darkened picture with a large warning sign indicating the music box, as we learned later in the other game. And well, in the teaser picture, if you brighten the image, most Five Nights at Freddy's fans would know this by now, but if you brighten up the image, you could actually see the marionette in the background. And and a friend of mine, now this teaser picture came after we saw the teaser trailer from Five Nights at Freddy's 2, and you know, me and a couple of friends of mine were watching the teaser, and we were looking at extremely small details like most Five Nights at Freddy's fans, because we know how infamous Scott Cawthon is with hiding detail in plain sight. So one of my friends, one of my closest friends, noticed a little poster in the background, you know, the beginning of where it pans to Withered Bonnie and where all the children are singing that London bridges are falling down. He noticed this poster, what looked like a puppet, and he goes, "Oh, I hope we don't encounter a puppet in this game." And sure enough, this teaser confirms that there is indeed a puppet. And when I showed it to my friend, he was like, "Fuck." So yeah, I think Five Nights at Freddy's 2 was in production for like 4 months, I believe, and then so we kind of got the gist that the release date was gonna be released somewhere around Christmas. So me and my friend had this big talk of doing a duet record of Five Nights at Freddy's 2 at around Christmas time, and we were going through this whole plan to record this game, and Scott Cawthon released the demo, and then soon after he released the full game. Now, I haven't played the full game at this point. I downloaded the demo to play it for myself, and I just realized just how scary any Five Nights at Freddy's game in general is. And I had my friends play the demo during school, and actually when I was having a conversation with a couple of other people about something I can't remember at the time, my friend, the close friend that I kept on mentioning, said that he saw Shadow Bonnie. Now, we didn't get recorded, so of course I don't have any evidence about this, so that was actually pretty cool that we managed to, he managed to find something secret. So you know, I didn't get to play all of it for myself because I had this big plan, but now Scott Cawthon surprised us with his surprise release. So I just watched Markiplier play Five Nights at Freddy's 2, of course. And over the course of various Let's Players playing through Five Nights at Freddy's 2, we later realized that Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is not a sequel, it's actually a pre-sequel to the first Five Nights at Freddy's game, because you could hear in the phone call that the phone guy mentions about the murders and that he's going to work the night shift, and the further evidence is that at the check at the end of the game you earn, it dates back to 1987, so that pretty much confirms that it was a pre-sequel. Now, kind of more personal thoughts on number 2 in general. I want to say that it's probably the most difficult out of all of the Five Nights at Freddy's games, by far. There's so many more animatronics to keep track of. Not only do you have the new toy versions, but you also have the withered ones. And And then also another unique game mechanic is the marionette wind up the music box, and if you fail to wind up the music box, then the marionette will get you and you get an instant game over. But what makes it stand out from most Five Nights at Freddy's games is that you have access to a Freddy mask, so that if an animatronic gets in the room with you, you'll have to put it on super quick so that it doesn't recognize you and eventually leaves. And so yeah, I think Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is much more action-packed because there's so much more animatronics, and it's one of the more difficult Five Nights at Freddy's games. And I gotta say, the new Withered Foxy, it looks like a freaking beast in this one. But another personal favorite from Five Nights at Freddy's 2 was Mango. And essentially, there's a debate about whether it's a boy or a girl. Who cares? They're animatronic, so gender doesn't apply. So, Mango is essentially the successor to Foxy. And, he is posted at Kids Cove, to keep the toddlers entertained. But over the course of the establishment, the children just ripped Mango apart, being what he is today. Which is kind of sad, but at the same time, it makes him look more disfigured and much more badass. He's crawling along the walls and he admits his radio, which means he's probably the more easier animatronic to keep track of besides the others. And this is when Five Nights at Freddy's 2 was getting released, there were like a shit ton of fan games and fan music being released all over the place. And I've really got into most of the fan music besides the Living Tombstone. There was Mando Pony, Groundbreaking, I believe. Yeah, Groundbreaking. And a lot more fan art. And I'm just surprised of how much fanfare Five Nights at Freddy's is getting at this point. And all of Five Nights at Freddy's songs are really amazing. I mean, one of my personal favorites is Survive the Night by Mando Pony, the Bonnie song by Groundbreaking, and of course Five Nights at Freddy's 2 song by the Living Tombstone himself, and many, many others. I would want to talk more about more of these Five Nights at Freddy's fan songs, but that's for a different video. So anyway, so yeah, Five Nights at Freddy's 2 was the one that really got me into playing Five Nights at Freddy's, and then eventually I got to play the first game, and I could see a total difference between the two. The first game had a much more atmospheric build to it, and I want to say it's much more creepier and scarier than the second one, because you only have to deal with 4 animatronics, not like 20 animatronics. No, not 20. Sorry, I keep on losing track of the animatronics. More like 10 animatronics in Five Nights at Freddy's 2. So anyway, so this is when the fans keep on asking for more Five Nights at Freddy's games, and this was also a point where most people just straight out hated Five Nights at Freddy's. Some claim that Scott Cawthon is milking the franchise, you will, getting more success off of it. Now I can see where they're coming from, but personally I think Scott Cawthon sees Five Nights at Freddy's a huge success. I mean, I dove more into Scott Cawthon's personal life, and I realized that this one game, I think it was called Pilgrim's Pride or something like that, it got relatively good reception, but Scott Cawthon was in a deep state of depression when he read all the hateful comments about some of the characters looking like animatronics. And a few years later, Scott Cawthon released Five Nights at Freddy's, sort of as a revenge technique to get back at the negative commenters. So yeah, that's really interesting that someone would use the negative feedbacks on a previous game and then put that in your next game of the franchise. So this was also a point where this Five Nights at Freddy's 2 also introduced the death mini games, where it releases a little bit more backstory on the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise. I mean, the establishments, such as the first establishment, I believe, was Fredbear's Family Diner, which only had one animatronic. Of course, we don't know much about Fredbear's Family Diner because it only appeared in the mini game. But yeah, some of the mini games provided more clues to what has happened at the establishment. It has also introduced the killer of the 5 children, which the entire Five Nights at Freddy's community labels the purple guy, who, as you can tell, is a purple figure who appears to have killed all the animatronics, and no, not all of the animatronics, the children, and stuffed them in the animatronic suits. So yeah, so Five Nights at Freddy's 2 was, to me, personally, is the first Five Nights at Freddy's game that has set the groundworks for the entire mythos of the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise. And I thought that was very creative on Scott Cawthon's part to expand more on the storyline of Five Nights at Freddy's.